Welcome to the A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal podcast, where each week I, Dr. Mal, share life lessons and motivation to kickstart your Monday. Whether you're starting your day or winding down, join me or me and my future guest for a burst of positivity and a fresh perspective. Let's make Mondays meaningful together. Greetings and happy Monday, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mallory D. McCoy, and welcome to this week's episode of A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you what you need in the present moment. May my light exude positivity and kindness, and may my love be extended to all who could use a little extra. Ashe. Let's seize the moment. This episode is sure to be the most authentic episode I've ever recorded in the whole entire history of my podcast up until now. It's vulnerable. It's transparent. It's something that I'm walking through currently right now that I really don't have words for. And I often find myself saying, it's wild, it's crazy, but there's not even a word in the English dictionary that captures quite what I've been experiencing in my life right in this very moment since the beginning of April. So I've been in this for a little over a month now. But I will start here because the part of the story that's most important to tell is the part that starts with me, not starts with my son. So did you know that sometimes the path to truth doesn't begin with answers, but it begins with questions? My journey to this moment didn't start with my son's diagnosis of autism. It started long before that with a quiet unfolding of my spiritual awakening. Growing up, I was immersed in religion. I was surrounded by faith in many forms because I had a divided home. My dad's side was Baptist, my mom's side was Methodist, and when we visited our grandparents in Texas, they were Church of God in Christ, or Kojic. And when I go to church with friends during high school, I experienced Catholicism, Episcopalian, and Church of God spaces too. So even before I was old enough to vote or pay a bill, I had been exposed to a range of religious traditions. I knew the songs, I knew the scriptures. I was devoted in the way that I knew how to be devoted and how people around me were mirroring their devotion. So when I got to Kansas City for college, I soon after joined a Baptist church, and I even worked in the music ministry for a time. But I never really questioned religion until 2011. And that's when a fellow church music ministry friend and I started sharing dialogue, and he shared with me open-ended questions that challenged what I thought I understood about the Bible. And I didn't have any answers at that time, but what I did have was a deep sense of peace and an overflow of love every time I sang, every time I praised, or I tapped into the word that was being delivered. So I let the questions sit and I let them dissipate because Spirit was still showing up for me in that space. Well, fast forward to 2016. I started 2016 with a pregnancy loss after going through the IVF process for the first time. The first embryo transferred lost his heartbeat at 9 weeks. And that's a whole nother podcast itself. So I'll save the details of that for another day. But in March 2016, I had another embryo transferred and prayed all the way through the whole process and beyond. And I celebrated that I made it through the first trimester with my son. I can still remember the anxiety in the 13 weeks. I was grateful, but it was also different. And I was also different. I was grateful to have made it through the first trimester with him, but I was also different. This experience and pregnancy with him stirred something in me. And I started to think deeply, not just about his life, but about what I was going to teach him. So when I thought about what I was going to teach him, it actually made me confront myself in the way of, what do I already know? And is it actually something that I know, or is it something that someone has told me I need to believe that I know? Then the other questions that I asked were, what do I really know to be true? And what have I accepted as truth, but I've never really questioned? And those thoughts, I couldn't drop them because I was like, I have this big responsibility to teach this human everything I know about life. So what am I going to teach him? And if I say I'm teaching him this, do I know enough about it to even teach him? That's how I think. So when my son was born, I remember always saying that he was double spirited. And I just assumed that he just absorbed the spirit of my first child that I had. And I just could not put my finger on it at the time. But I knew always that he was special and he carried something otherworldly that is not explained in the common society that we live in. I will remember specifically at 2 months, I took him to church because I was sick during my pregnancy. Another story for another day. So I was not going to church, but at 2 months, I brought him to church. And after that day, I never went back. It was something in my spirit, and I believe in his, that told me this is not where you need to be. And I didn't have the language yet, but I was being moved. Soon after, that's when I started to adopt a meatless diet, and then I transitioned into plant-based. And my new life started when he was born. And we, as a household, stopped celebrating holidays. We changed our diet. We began challenging our entire understanding of reality. And it was incredibly hard, especially because our family didn't understand what was happening. But I know that it was necessary. Fast forward to 2019, we got his diagnosis for autism at July. And his primary marker for them diagnosing him with autism was that he was non-speaking. In fact, the paperwork says level 3 autism, non-verbal. That's what it says. And of course, they said that he had the repetitive behaviors, but the core issue and the reason why they diagnosed with him with autism was because that he wasn't verbal. So I mobilized quickly, as I did. That day I became an advocate, and I got every service that I could in place. But something in my soul still told me that there was more to the story. Then March 2020, so a few months later, came the pandemic. And when everything shut down, it was literally just me and him. We spent a lot of time outside. I spent a lot of time in reflection. And in that time, I also was going through a spiritual process because there was a lot of other things happening too. And that's when things really started to open up for me. And in July 2020, I got my first mediumship reading from Jamie Collins, and she's a Kansas City based medium. And that changed my life. That actually helped springboard me into where I am right now. My ancestors came through so clearly, messages were relayed, and everything that she said in the reading has either come to pass or is currently unfolding. She told me my life. And since that moment, I made a vow on every year and every birthday, I would give myself the gift of spiritual insight. Fast forward to 2022, I received an Akashic record reading from a gifted reader in Kansas City named Akashic Grace. And what she told me confirmed everything. Here's a short clip of what she told me that refers to what I'm talking about today.
I also see him catching up with himself in terms of being able to communicate and express himself. And so that doesn't mean he'll eventually become a great orator. What it does mean is that as he catches up with himself, comes into his own knowingness of who he is and how he is, he will just find a way to communicate that. Whether or not he ever becomes really verbal in the way that we're all verbal, I can't say. Neither yes or no. But what I know is he's going to come into his own enough that he finds a way to express himself. And my sense is he absolutely came in to be one of the children of the future, one of the guides of the future, if I can say it in a little different way. I mean, every soul who comes in as a child knows that they're going to be, part of the future in some way. But what I feel for your son is, so just as autism is a relatively new thing, I mean, it's probably been around for a lot longer than we know, but it's just like ADHD. It's been around a long time, but then suddenly it was a thing.
Yeah,
and now autism is a thing, and it wasn't known before. My sense is that the children, your son included, who are coming in on that spectrum, they are our future, but they're leading us. They're taking us into that future. We're not dragging them. I'm seeing what I'm saying. It's not like we're pulling them, like, come on, I know you have disabilities, but I'm going to pull you in the future. I see that they're coming in with the skill sets that they are leading us into the future, your son included. So if he's not communicative or verbally communicative right now, I mean, at the physical level, that may be frustrating, but at that bigger soul picture level, like, that's okay, because that's not the skill set either that he needs right now, or that he knew needed to be at the forefront, or it's a skill set that he's going to grow into just so he can find a new way. It can serve that purpose too. I just feel like, especially for your son, if always we want to evolve as the human species, he is one of those forerunners, or at least next runners, if you want to call that the next step, to just lead the way into the next level of evolution. And whether that evolution is that we become even more telepathic or more compassionate or more this or more that, or we become less that way because, there's some that artificial intelligence is pushing us in a different way. Regardless of which way we go, my sense is that your son at a soul level very much has some purpose. Like, that's why he chose to come in the way he did, because he's here. I don't want to say he's here from the future. He's here just from the now, at some higher level. But he is here to lead us into the future as part of a vanguard of children who are going to become adults. And while one might say that's true for any child or a lot of children, it doesn't matter if it's true for others. I just really feel that for your son.
Now, okay, if you listen to my April 7th episode, the one where I first shared my belief that my son is telepathic, then you already know that I've been sitting with this truth for a while. And it's not just a belief anymore, because on that subsequent Thursday, so Monday I released the episode, that Thursday, someone who shares space with my son every day came to me with a story and a confirmation that affirmed what I already knew. And so from that moment on, our lives are intertwined in a way that only spirit could orchestrate. Kai Dickens, the director of the Telepathy tape, said in a recent interview that she had with Jay Shetty, there's this thing that happens when we become parents. We don't intend to, but we begin to dream for our children with all of our own limitations. We project our fears, our shortcomings, and our deep desires onto them. But what if we stop doing that? What if we allowed them to show us who they really are? And that quote hit me right in the chest, because that is exactly what my son has done for me and other people in his life, obviously. He came into this world to remind me that I don't have to live by the limits that were passed down to me, and neither does he. And we are not here to replicate old patterns. We are here to break them wide open and build something new. And that's what he has done for me, just by being who he is. I was raised religious, deeply so. And for a long time, religion was the only way I knew how to connect with God. But somewhere along the way, after life got louder and spirit got clearer, I realized something. Just because I no longer identify as religious doesn't mean I'm no longer spiritual. And I fought with that for a long time because I didn't know how to place that where it went. I didn't know, like, okay, so I'm no longer religious, so how do I pray? So I'm no longer religious, so how do I conduct myself? All these questions I had at the same time as I'm moving through this. But I will tell you that on this side, I have never been more connected. It took me some time to realize that I could develop my own direct line to source with no mediator, and that my body could be the altar and my life could be the prayer. And once I figured that out, It's been a game changer from here on out. I've been telling folks lately, I got Ray Charles level faith, like unshakable, somatically felt, can't nobody take this away from me kind of faith. And my faith says that everything is in divine order, everything is happening for me, not to me. And if I'm being honest, I believe it was my son's soul that guided me to this spiritual point right here. Because to be religious is to be of the mind, but to be spiritual, that's of the heart. And if I was still only in my mind, clinging to the religious constructs of our society, I'm not sure I could have heard him in the way that I hear him now. He speaks a language that requires heart, not logic. And Spirit made sure that I was ready to receive this moment. And so, in this moment, I invite you to suspend disbelief and to open your heart and to hear what's being said, even when it's not being spoken. All guest podcasts are titled What They Want You to Know, and my intention is to dive deep into the minds of experts, thought leaders, and fascinating individuals to uncover the one thing they truly want you to know about their area of expertise. I intend to unapologetically and unequivocally center the voices of people from powerful groups targeted by oppression. However, if there are other community members who can interject on the topic, they'll be invited to the cookout too. So now it's time for you to hear this for yourself. There's 3 voices, there's 2 stories, but there's one shared message. My son is not just aware, he is connected. And in this episode, you're going to understand exactly what I mean. You're going to hear from 2 incredible individuals whose lives have been divinely intertwined with ours. Initially, for the sake of privacy and sacred protection, I started our conversation by referring to them by pseudonyms we agreed on before recording, Grace and Miles. However, as the interview progressed, you'll see that Spirit wasn't having that and told them that they needed to reveal themselves. One works closely with my son in an environment that he's in every day. And the other person, her husband, is someone whose spiritual gifts were awakened through a near death experience when he was born stillborn and brought back to life. He's been able to hear and see Spirit his whole entire life, and he's always called it a curse until now, because my son is the first living person he has ever been able to hear. And so, what you're about to hear is not just their story, it's our confirmation. It's Spirit revealing again what I already knew deep down. My son is communicating beyond language, beyond logic, and beyond the limits this world tries to put on him. And we're finally listening to him because he's given us no choice. Here's what we talked about. Well, welcome to the podcast. I have been highly anticipating this conversation, and I just would first like to say thank you for being brave enough to bring yourselves in this space, because this is a public space. And even though it's virtual and you're anonymous, there's an imprint of you that's being made public, and it's your own personal experiences and how it connects to my personal experience. So I'm incredibly grateful for you being willing to share our story, now our story, about my son Raymond. So anybody can start by just simply sharing your vantage point of how we arrived to this space.
I'm going to say that is most definitely a higher power. From you deciding you were going to move to a certain place, and then my wife deciding to change jobs, even though she didn't want to, and you didn't want to move, and then you guys end up together here. That's how it all kind of started.
Yes, that's very pre.
Well, I mean, but important, because even before our segment on the podcast, I do a build up about my shift from being religious to being spiritual which is also the setup for this.
Yes.
Because honestly, I know if I was still religious, I wouldn't have been able to receive even this part. We wouldn't be here.
Yes.
If I was still in religion. That turn actually started in 2011. That's how far this goes back and how far I can trace it back in my life. And so, yeah, the pre is important. But Grace is someone who works with my son every day, and Miles is her husband. Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay. Miles is her husband. And it's also important to know I've never met Miles in person. I've only met Grace in person. And Miles has only met Raymond one time in person.
Yes.
So that's all very important to know too. So, Grace, can you tell us a little bit about the moment that you first began to sense that there was something unique about the way Raymond communicates, or what was the turning point for you?
Okay, before we do this, I have to stop you because
That person we talk about, not Raymond, the other one,
Yeah.
right next to you, and she was telling you she's proud of you. She just talked to me.
so I just had to stop it because while you were doing that, he's doing his thing that he does when somebody comes through.
Wow.
And I didn't know if while you were talking you would hear it because he makes a noise.
Oh,
And so,
I didn't hear it, but
and then he was like, stop, you can't answer yet. So, okay.
I love that so much. And
That was the proof of what I do.
Yes.
There was
yeah,
a camera. Glad the
right.
camera's off.
So he's glad the camera's off.
No, I love that. But also, I mean, I don't mind sharing to my audience. So when Miles and I first connected outside of Grace, one of the first things that he told me was that my Aunt Cleo was one of my guardian angels and that she was always with me. And she appeared when we were texting back and forth to make her presence known. And my Aunt Cleo is my aunt Kathy, who was tragically murdered a couple of years ago. And I'm very thankful that she is a part of my life. And I'm thankful that she's proud of me. And so
Yeah.
I'm proud of me too.
It's nice to hear and get that reassurance, I think.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful.
Okay, so what was your question?
So I'm asking about when was the first time you sensed something was unique about Raymond, or before all of this happened, did you have any type of sense as to there's something going on, but I can't put my thumb on it?
That's a good question. I think like I became more tuned into things after listening to the telepathy tapes, for sure. But I think what the telepathy tapes did for me was cause me to kind of stop and reflect on not only my current group of people that I'm around, but other previous individuals, and just to kind of reflect on my interactions and relationships with all of those people. With Raymond specifically, it was easy for me to reflect on the interactions that I have with him. I'm definitely his person within my room. And so there are a lot of interactions that I have with him that other people don't have in the room. I am the person that he seeks out and comes to when something is wrong, when he wants something, and not because the other people won't give him those things or respond to him, but he comes to me and just looks at me. And that's not something that he does with other people. He'll pull at other people and he'll do other things. But with me specifically, he is very intent on getting my attention and looking directly at me. And so as I kind of started to reflect on that, I really realized no, he really is attempting to communicate with me. And I've always been very able to, with him especially, just kind of know what he wanted. and just kind of have that, like he can look at me and I can say, oh, you want that toy over there, but you can't have it right now. Or, whatever it is, just somehow always kind of having an idea and knowing what it was that he wanted. And I think I just kind of brushed that off to just, I don't know, just having a good relationship with him. But I think the more I look at it now, I think it's something deeper than that.
Well, your story is my story. That's
Yeah.
exactly, I mean, I said in the first episode that I did about him being telepathic that his father and I could be sitting in the same room and he looks at me and I know what he wants and he'll ask me like, how did you know that he wanted that? And I'm like, I just knew. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew. And
Hey,
so
can you
we have the
pause?
same experience.
Can you pause? Turn on our camera. Hi. Okay. I'm Chad. This is Heather. We're going to do this. JP's bothering me, and I'm not doing it, and I'm sweating, and he's outside my window. So he doesn't ever come into my house. You're right.
No.
That's weird. So, are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. So
Okay.
You can
The
see
whole
us.
time that I've been talking to you, he's whispering. He's doing his whisper thing. And so I assumed that you were still talking to her aunt.
No.
So I was trying to just keep talking and not pay attention to
I'm
the whispering
sweating.
in my ear.
We're going to be. He's saying that. How can we do that? You're supposed to change the world if we're hidden.
Was that what he said?
Yes. Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Feel me.
That lasted a long time. The whole time I was talking, you were doing that. Yes.
Jesus. I'm done with these people. I'm going to need another drink.
These people, you mean JP.
He's
Poor
so
JP.
big.
And he's not in the house.
No, he's just like, I guess he'd be in the window.
So wow. Okay, so JP's bothering you to reveal yourself.
So he said, what did JP say to you?
He said, how can you two change the world if we're hidden?
Mm.
Because remember what I told you I was told? And so when this was going on and the camera's off and he's outside my house again, he's not in, which is so weird. That's what he was talking about. And he's like, you guys can't make a difference if nobody knows who you are.
Mm.
But it makes me nervous for her, not me.
Yeah. And share why it makes you nervous for her.
Because anybody that challenges the norm is put out in a box over here in left field. And once you're labeled something, you're labeled forever. And people that break them walls down might go through hell to do it. And they might not even see the reward. It might be the next generation that sees the reward from the foundation that they started. So that terrifies me for my wife.
Well, there's two things that you said that are important. First of all, there is that fear of having one label and being labeled forever. And I think that it's important that you said that even in this space, because with Raymond having autism and other parents saying, well, I don't want to get them, diagnosed because I don't want them to carry this label with them for the rest of their lives.
Also, I don't think everybody who's autistic can have this ability.
It's true. I just
I don't want to give people false hope that if their kid's autistic and nonverbal, that they're going to be at the hill and going to be telepathic, because I don't think it works like that. That's horrible for some parents.
Right. But I was just alluding to the fact I used autism because that's what I deal with, but insert anything. Parents really struggle with moving through the avenues to diagnose their child with something because they don't want the label. But furthermore, on that back end, when Heather and I have had private conversations about Raymond's autism diagnosis specifically, and when I heard Kai Dickens talk about apraxia and, non-speaking people not being connected to their body, in my experience with my son, that's what resonates more with me than autism per se.
In my experience, I think that's true of, I could probably go through any given classroom and that would be true of multiple kids, I think, within the classroom. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's a fair thing.
So what we're talking about, because my listeners won't know when they hear this, we're talking about an interview that I sent to Heather that was conducted with Jay Shetty and Kai Dickens, the creator of the telepathy tapes, where she's talking about apraxia and how most of the non-speakers that she was dealing with spoke about not being connected to their bodies. And so that feeling of not being connected to your body is creating all of these other things. And particularly with Raymond, that whole not being able to formulate the words, or when you tell him point here and he points here, there's some sort of disconnect from his body. And I've always thought that, but I stopped moving in that space because I wasn't here. So now that
So interesting when you listen to the telepathy tapes, and so many individuals comment and talk about that disconnect with their body.
Absolutely. Right now, what we know about Raymond and what he's communicated, he hasn't communicated that in that way and that deeply yet. But I imagine that it's going to grow. So Chad, so no Grace and Miles, certainly Chad and Heather. And Heather has been Raymond's teacher for kindergarten and first grade. So she's not new to Raymond. And Chad, we've never met before. So Chad is new to me, but Heather is not. So Chad, can you tell us about your spiritual gift and when it first began and how you've come to understand it or not understand it over time?
There's two sections of this. Raymond and this is all brand new. But since I was as far back as I can remember, my whole life, I have seen spirits, I guess you would say, or shadows or figures or entities. I mean, it's been everything in my life I've seen. The first one I can recall was a burning lady sitting next to me in my bedroom. And 2 years later, that house burnt down. But this burning lady sat in my bedroom, and she was really sweet. She was very kind. But I remember the next morning I told my mom that there was this lady in my room, and of course she said it was a dream or a nightmare. But I saw her every night until the fire happened. And then I never saw her again. And so I didn't want to be stereotyped because people always assumed I was lying or making it up. And even now today it's harder to tell somebody, because if you tell somebody, they assume you're doing some internet research on them, trying to fill it. Like with you, when I seen your aunt, I feel like I have to validate myself. So the first thing I said is, you call her Aunt Cleo. And I'm like, I don't think that would be out in public record that that's her name.
Absolutely
So
not.
that's,
Absolutely not.
but you're a believer. Not everybody's a believer. So I learned to hide it from most people and just hope that I don't go into my trance in front of people. And if I do, I hope it just looks like I'm daydreaming. And it's stronger around certain people. So what we think happens, because we don't know what really is going on, we think people with the energy to communicate and everything bring the spirits in and they feed off that energy, and I can just happen to see and hear it. I've never been able to communicate
Or control it.
but I have been able to, I don't know if you'd say the word challenge it. Like, I've had evil entities that I've offered my body to fight off to get away from my family. It's been things like that. And I've had some weird situations there. Around this woman, it happens so much more because her and our oldest daughter's energy brings the house down. And so it's just a lot. And then I didn't watch the telepathy tapes. So let's just point that out. So I saw this gigantic man outside my window communicating with me, and he said his name was JP, and it shows me initials. So it's like I see a flip book sometimes, where it's like, you know how you watch a person dance in a flip book, but it might be the person's whole life, it might be one story, it might be a time they want me to see. And with JP, it was initials, the J and the P, and had waterways behind it. Not knowing he died in water. Like, I felt insulting when I was like, oh yeah, he wants his logo to be a JP with water behind it. And then I found out he died in water. And then I feel like, why am I saying this? Like, this is horrible. But when he told me, he came and communicated about my wife changing things. And next thing I know, I start hearing people. And this is not the same as my spirits because I don't go in a trance. It's like hearing somebody, like a voice in your head, you think you're crazy. Like, it doesn't feel right. The first one I got was a girl, and I don't remember what she was saying now. Each one of my experiences my whole life is kind of like when you have a dream, the next day you don't want to forget the dream, but then by noon you've already forgotten the dream. That is most of my experiences. I don't know if I block them out naturally or how it works. That's why I have her. She can remember things I can't. So JP, I hear this girl, and then I start hearing this boy with a lower voice, and I was like, I think this is Raymond. And I don't know Raymond. I've met him once. And I tell her that, and then she's like, oh my God, I think Raymond is my one kid in the class that's telepathic. I think it's Raymond. So I was like, well, it's Raymond. And then our first time proving it was lunch. I'm sitting at work and I just start hearing something, and I'm like, and this time he won't let it go. Like, sometimes I can hear, yes, mama, no, mama, I love mama. And he said many times things like that. And we've texted you before, or we've took timestamps and asked you without you knowing, like, what were you doing Saturday at 8:00? My wife's asked you these questions.
Yeah.
It's because Raymond's communicated with me at that moment. He's answering something you're doing. Well, anyway, he's upset about a boy in a red shirt wanting goldfish, and he's like, "Give him the goldfish so he'll shut up." Like, he's irritated with this kid who's throwing a fit, and I'm like, "Listen, there's some kid in your class that's got a red shirt on," and she's like, "Oh my God, you're 100% right," and I'm at work, and I'm like, "Okay, this is crazy. I don't know how this is happening, but now I've gone from ghost to hearing live people in my head, and it's just unique."
Yeah. And to finish up that story, so that is how Heather introduced me to her knowledge of Raymond being telepathic. And the alignment was uncanny. I cannot explain my life to anybody right now. The synchronicity that I'm experiencing seems otherworldly. But that Monday, I had released that podcast, My Autistic Son is Telepathic. That Thursday, Heather's in my face telling me Raymond's telepathic. I'm like, yeah, no, I just did a podcast about it. And I'm like, well, maybe she's seen it online, you know? And she's like, oh, no, Raymond's telepathic. And then she goes into the story about the goldfish. And then I start crying because I'm like, the affirmation of that, you know, like what you feel, what you've been feeling from him, and things that are happening that you can't explain with him are now validated by somebody I don't even know. You know, and so when you're emailing me, because at this point we don't have each other's personal phone numbers, so when you email me and tell me, you know, Raymond said, it's okay, mama, it's always been you. That was the second time you let me know that he was directly communicating through email. And then I got up the courage to say, hey, can I just have Chad's number? So like whenever Raymond's communicating with him, I can just get a straight line. And every time that Chad has texted me or, you know, even called me to say like, hey, are you okay? Because that's a whole separate part of this too, which we'll get into in a second. I just, first of all, so many emotions, but the top emotion is the gift of being able to at least know what my son is thinking, because I have never known what he was thinking, but I always have known what he's thinking. I know that sounds weird.
Well, now you're getting confirmation.
Yes. I'm getting
Validation.
confirmation and validation that my experience is real with him. Like I'm having this experience, but never would I ever have thought that it would be in this way. So, continuing conversations with Chad, I learned that Monday following, I have an emotional day because personally I'm going through some stuff, a separation. And so I had an emotional day with that. And I was talking with my friend, Aunt Stephanie, on the phone about the emotional day, but she was also having an emotional day. So we were having an emotional day together. And then I took him to her house and she had an emotional moment while with him. She let me know that. Well, then the next morning when Chad texted me to say, "Hey, Raymond's mad because he's upset that you and Aunt Steph are having these emotions." And I'm like, "What?" What? Because Chad again doesn't know who I am. So me, yeah, maybe I had him. I grew his body. But Aunt Steph, like how would he feel her emotions? So Chad, can you walk us through that? Because that's only one example of, I'm like, how did he get that name? How, like just mind blown. But
There
so what
was
we
three names.
go
Wasn't there
ahead.
three names that time?
Cleo was one
So
of
so
No.
Clydette was one of them.
Yeah.
them.
He was who I interviewed
Yeah.
for that podcast that upcoming week. I was editing it, but the fact that he told you the name Clydette and I was only editing the videos, he doesn't know Clydette. I didn't meet her even until the week after you told me that he said her name and you typed it in a text message. Like, Clydette is not a name that is a popular name, you
I
know?
actually thought I was saying something wrong. I was like, I think it's Clydette. I don't understand what this is. Like, it's not a common name. So yeah.
It's not a common name. So just even you saying that, but I think even the bigger part of this is that we now know through Raymond's communication is that he is energetically connected to me.
Very.
Very.
Some days I'm like, Mallory needs to get her emotions in check because I can't keep doing this.
That's a unique thing to think about. When you're having an emotional moment, when you think you can go away from your son and have your mom breakdown moment, you can't, because
Yeah.
we now know he senses that, and then he's upset because you're upset. And so that's just wonderful to know for all of us that you can't, might as well just break down right in front of you. So
But
what's
I will
the
say,
withdraw?
I will say this. I will say publicly, spiritually, that has pushed me into a space where it's now forcing me to ground my emotions. So, but I was supposed to do this anyway. I kept receiving messages myself from my tarot and oracle cards that I need to adopt a meditation practice and that I need to practice grounding. So I was like, oh, it's enough for me to go outside and sit on the grass. That's grounding because it is grounding. It's enough for me to do Pilates and yoga and breathing. It's enough for me, but it's deeper than that. Like, I can't even have one little moment because if I have one little moment, Raymond has a moment outside of my presence. He's at school. And that's
Yes.
where Heather is getting the brunt of my emotion through my son at school. And
Yes.
then Chad is communicating it because the day that Chad called me, when I did have an upset moment, I was triggered earlier that morning, but I hadn't moved on with my day. But Raymond had not moved on with his day.
Mm-hmm.
And so Chad called me and says, "Hey, are you okay?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm fine. I'm, about to help somebody notarize some divorce papers. Like, I'm good." And he's like, "Well, I can't get in touch with Heather. Raymond is having a breakdown at school. Can you check in?" So that's how I got Heather's number. And I text her like, "Hey, is everything okay?" She's like, "Absolutely not." Absolutely not. He is having a whole thing. And I said, "Well, Chad said it's because I'm upset. Can you tell him that I'm okay?" And then Heather, can you tell us what happened after that?
I feel like Raymond just knows when we communicate. I think because immediately after that, Raymond was fine.
He grins.
He smiles.
He grins.
He comes and looks at me with a big smile. And so I don't know. I don't even think it took me saying anything to him. I think it was him knowing that we had reached out to you and him hearing you say that you were okay. And him just knowing that we're trying to figure it out, maybe. You know, it's anyone's guess, I think, but he definitely, just in that in itself is enough that calms him, that brings him back to where he needs to be. And I found that to be true even when I am trying to figure it out and I haven't reached out to anybody. My new favorite phrase with him is just pulling him to me and saying, I don't know what's happening, you know, anywhere else but here. But you are here at school and you are okay. And we are okay. And your mom is okay. And then typically that will kind of bring him back. Usually, you know, obviously there's other reasons he can be upset, but I can be the cause of it too.
Well, I mean, you know, and he's stubborn as a mule, so there's that
Yeah.
part too. So it can be anybody. So, wow, Raymond has access to a speech device that we are both diligently working with him to use. And the kids are the people, non-speaking people that were a part of this documentary actually learned spelling as a form of communication. And that is a whole nother thing that Raymond's not doing. It's the same way, but you just show him and he does it, as opposed to him having to type out each of the letters. But he still chooses to communicate in this way. So how do we process this? And how and for you, Chad, how do you process this type of responsibility? Because this is not something you asked for. This just happened.
Well, in this case, I talked to my wife, and she was like very much wanted to come tell you. We waited like a week to tell you because I don't think you got your paths crossed. But we wouldn't have came out if my wife wasn't confident in you. So that's what changed all of this. I would have just shut it down and just kept quiet. Been like, hey, some annoying voice is talking to me in my head. I wouldn't even said it's just cute boy or whatever. Because I don't see anything. With spirits, I see things. With this, it literally is just a voice. And so when she said she wanted to reach out and talk to you about it, changed all of this. Then I was like, well, then I'm going to have to talk to you about it because it's going to have to be an open triangle of communication. And there's this, you know, we have the uncommon ground that it's a student teacher relationship that does have privacy things. Spouses being involved in it could be like, there's a lot of complications to this one. But she was confident with your guys' connection that she wanted to go down this path, and JP wanted us to go down this path, and I follow.
And it's so wild. So for those of you who haven't listened to the telepathy tapes, Chad has alluded to JP a few times, and JP is one of actually the main characters in the telepathy tapes because JP was Earthside and then chose to transition through drowning. But ultimately, he is a leader in this telepathy space. As you get into the episodes, they start talking about this place called the Hill, which Chad alluded to earlier, and it's a place, but not a physical space. It's a place where non-speakers go to communicate with each other telepathically. And Chad, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Hill?
Okay. Want to point out that I ruined the telepathy tapes for my wife because I said there's this big guy named JP in the waves before she got to the episode where she found out he died.
Yeah, I did not know that he had passed away.
She wasn't on that episode yet.
When Chad told me that. So I was initially a little confused because I I thought, okay, well, you're hearing them and seeing them. Well, that's different. I didn't make that connection.
So that was a phone call I got
Yeah.
on the way home when she was listening to the tapes, and she's like, "He's dead." I was like, "I know he's dead. He's this gigantic man in my house, like, or outside my house."
Because he won't come in.
He won't.
He won't come in. It's very unique to him for in relation to all of our other experiences we've had.
And Heather, are you a part of any of these experiences? Like, do you sense the spirits too?
I can sometimes sense them. I've never been able to see anything. I've never been able to hear anything. And I don't think that I really realized that I was sensing them until I had somebody seeing them and hearing them at the same time that I was sensing it, to piece that together and realize that that was what was happening. So my experience is typically that if he sees or hears something, I can communicate with that spirit that is in our space, and then it will respond to him. I'm kind of like the in between. That has been our experience
We've tested it
multiple times.
So we've actually been in 2 different cities, and I'm like, somebody's communicating with you, and I'm like, ask it questions. And so she'll ask questions, and then I'll get answers and text her answers, and they're right. And so that validates it for me, because even with her at the beginning, I felt like I needed to not look like the crazy guy, telling her that her dead grandfather's walking through her house whistling. Like, that's how this started. So
That's how you
uh,
revealed your gift to Heather.
Yes. Yeah.
Through
I
her.
don't.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. To that point, let's talk about your gift, because one of the main things that you wanted to communicate with me when we first started speaking about my son is that you felt like your gift was a curse. So how has this particular experience with my son changed your vantage point, if at all?
It doesn't, but
It does.
I've done things with you, like, let's say the spirit thing. I call it a curse, right? That's what the tattoo means. And so, but like when I'm doing stuff for her family and I'm communicating with like her grandmother, once everybody in her family found out, like I haven't told my own family. There's people in my family don't know about it. Her whole family knows, and I'm a ghost boy to them, and they ask me every time they see me. That's the first thing they ask. But it's a blessing when you have people that you can communicate things to, and they believe you, and it's an answer to them. Spirit came to me for her coworker, and a coworker was doubting spirituality, and so just hearing me say yes, this is it. I'm not gonna name her name because it's not my place. And like this case, like you're a believer. Oh, so with your case, you guys are proving something, so it is a blessing. And now, do I always like it? No, because it's happening at the most odd times for me. School time is work time for me. Like, I'm not around you guys. So I'm sitting here and I'm like pausing my work, texting, "Are you okay?" Texting her, "What's going on?" Like, I'm trying to communicate just to get it to stop. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
let's walk through that though, because that is also another caveat to this. So, the day that my son told you that he didn't like the way that his dad made me feel, and then you had to text after and say, "I'm not trying to pry in your personal business," but then I felt like I'm like, well, I feel next. Here we are right now, because
We're in it.
you are learning about my life through his thoughts.
he
Huh?
loves his dad. He loves his dad
Yeah.
very much, but he doesn't like his dad around you at all.
No.
And he protects you from anything of his dad. He will always get in between you guys, and he communicates that with me. And he's just like, "Mom's not safe." And I don't think it's a physical abuse. I
No.
think it is a negative energy or verbal assault or just looked down upon. Like whatever he's feeling.
It's a negativity.
It's a negative thing.
Yeah.
And So
And so let me just be crystal clear. So like that weekend when I was out and I was around men and stuff like that and I was having these thoughts, I was like, I hope my son can't hear my thoughts because if Chad can hear what I'm maybe it's not hear what I'm thinking, but it's certainly feel what I'm feeling.
Uh-huh.
He can translate that. So Chad and I had to have a conversation about that. Like, did you hear anything I was thinking that?
we've also had that with spirits. Like, are we having adult time and Grandpa Wayne's in the room? Like, we've talked about that. Like that nervousness of
He's been in the shower before, and then he comes out and he says somebody was there, and he's like, "This is really awkward."
Well, I will say, Chad, because I have a medium that I consult with. Actually, she just started a podcast, and I sent it to you because she actually develops other mediums into controlling their gift. And one of the things that I because I interviewed her for this podcast,
right.
and I asked her specifically, "What do you do with spirits that just pop up?" And she told me that she tells them when she's available. She tells them when her office hours are and she meditates on that. I was like, do they show up to you every time? Like, she's like, no, I tell them when they can talk to me because she's like, I got a 9 to 5. Like, I can't, like you said, you at work, but this
And
is,
he will do that with me too. He will say, like, if there's something that's coming to him at a time, he'll say to me, "Tell this person to leave me alone,"
And it'll work.
and it works.
wow. That's incredible. And I will tell you something that's a new revelation to me. Spirit has come to me now. I mean, spirit was coming to me before, but I was ignoring it. But I had this real undeniable experience when I was being led through a mindfulness activity in yoga. And the instructor says, now imagine yourself outside of your body looking down at your body. I was able to do that, and I've never been able to do that before. And then another woman that attended the yoga session, she had shared at the beginning that her bonus daughter died by suicide. The yoga instructor was trying to lead us through another mindfulness activity. And I just kept hearing, I'm here, and I'm okay. And can you tell my mom I'm okay? I'm here. And I was like, I had to go into myself. I was like, is this happening? So I opened my eyes because my eyes are closed, and I look around. I'm like, oh, nobody's saying anything. So then I try to get back into the practice, and she's like, I'm here. I'm here. Please tell my mom I'm okay. And because the instructor was leading the session, I couldn't tell her that she was here. So I just scooted my body over on the yoga mat and I touched her arm because there was nothing else I could do. But then when the yoga instructor was done, then I told her, I'm like, hey, your daughter's here. She just wants you to know she's okay. But I was like, I didn't
How did
really,
she take it?
huh?
How did the mom take it?
She took it.
Now,
Uh,
I've had people that think I'm lying, especially like your situation where she tells you about it first and then you say she's here. Well, you've already been told that she's deceased. And so people think I've had them attack my character for that. When I used to try to like do things for spirits to communicate, people would assume I was lying and come at me wrong. And I'd be like, all right, I'll shut it down. That's not a problem. I won't bring it up, you know. But that's good that she took it good. Like she was like, hey, crazy lady, you know.
Yeah, I think she took it though because I introduced myself as spiritual. I mean, I lead with that just so people don't get confused because it's not even a confusion. It's more of the Christocentrism of it all. People make an assumption that I'm Christian and that I believe in the Bible and stuff like that. I do, but not in the religious way that people do.
Uh-huh.
And so when I try to translate a different message, then they're like, oh well, you don't believe it. But it's not that. It's that I have a deeper understanding of how it all relates and connects with each other. And so that's why at the beginning of this episode I'm having to walk through my transition from religious to spirituality and actually how it brought me here. It brought you to me. It put you in my life. Heather and I are connected through Raymond.
Yes.
Chad and I are not connected at all. So the fact that we are now connected in this beautiful way, and that I said in the email to Heather, I'm like, we're family now. Like, you ain't ever gonna get rid of me. And honestly, I hope to build my gift to be able to directly communicate with my son. And at the beginning of this episode, I sent it to Chad. I don't know if Chad let you listen, but I had an Akashic Records reading in 2022.
Okay, can you say that again? So I've messed that up 100 times trying to explain that.
The Akashic Records. It's the
That's
record of all of our souls and what we're supposed to do in every lifetime.
She
So
did share that with me, and I find that so amazing that something from so long ago brings you to this.
2022, right?
yeah, that happened in 2022 when she directly was able to say, and I actually had a conversation on the phone with her the other day. After I left you, Heather, I left you at school. I get in my car, the car door closes, the phone rings. I was like, what the heck? It was so wild. So I spent 40 minutes on the phone with her, asking her permission and stuff, but she remembered. So oftentimes, like you said, Chad, mediums will say, in the medium that I even consult, she's like, I don't remember what I told you. Like, I was in a trance-like state. I'm not writing down and recalling what I'm saying to people. That's why I recorded her telling me these things, because she doesn't remember what she told me in her trance. And so that's not unique to you. That happens a lot. But also, it was wild because when I'm on the phone with Akasha Grace, she's saying to me, hey, maybe you should consult Jamie Collins, who's my medium. And I'm like, I already consult her. Like, she's like, I have a text message conversations with her. Yeah, it's just all just this beautiful alignment, because not just that I've made connections with you, but all the other people. Because then that same day, Heather, that same day, I show up in a random co-working space that I got in the car. I was like, I have a business idea with somebody else that I know that likes sound bowls, because I have sound bowls. They have a sound bed. And I was like, oh, I got a cool business idea. I'm going to run it past them. So I text her and she says, well, we can talk about it, but I'm actually on my way to this co-working space. And do you want to go? I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything. I was actually going to be sitting in a coffee shop editing a podcast anyway. So I'll go. So I show up in the space unbeknownst to me. And first of all, I should mention this because this is important to even why, because Chad and I had private conversations. So I'm just gonna say this straight up, how I processed this whole entire thing. But when I showed up in the space, the first thing that I noticed was that it was a predominantly white space. Actually, it was an all white space. And I should say it was all white women that were in the space. Where I'm at right now, or where I was, let me talk about it, because growth happened in that space. Where I was before I showed up in that space was, I have a lot of trauma about walking through predominantly white spaces. So to protect myself and so that I can fully live in my authentic me, I'm going to avoid being in predominantly white spaces. So when I walked into that space, and unbeknownst to me, it was predominantly white, my first instinct was like, oh my gosh, so now I got to acclimate to this space, and stuff like that. All that process went through my head. But the second woman that introduced herself to me, I kept looking at her like, I know you from somewhere. And she looked at me like, you're familiar too. I know you. And I was like, no, you don't. I'm like, where I'm searching her face, like, where do I know you from? Where I'm like, did you teach like, we're going through all of this rigmarole to figure out how I know her. Well, the session started off with an oracle card reading, followed by a box breathing, followed by a guided meditation, followed by, let's talk about what we're going to intentionally work on for 45 minutes, then intentional work for 45 minutes. So it was a spiritual space. And I didn't know it before I showed up into that space, that it wasn't just your regular co-working space, like, hey, we're working together. No, these women were shaman. These women practice plant medicine or an integration of plant. Like, they were legit and into sound bowls, like all the things. I'm like, I found my tribe. Like, I didn't even know. And so had beautiful, rich conversations. But at the end, when the woman that I just mentioned she walks back up to me and she's like, I'm curious to meet with you further and talk about your spiritual awakening, because I'm going through a spiritual awakening too. And I'm like, oh yeah. She said, and so then we talk a little bit more and she says, you know what? You remind me of this character. She says, do you know the show called Sense 8? And I was like, no. And she's like, yeah, there's a character on there. Her name is Amaranth or something like that. And the show is about telepathy. And when she says that to me, I just start crying. I'm like, how did you know to say that to me? Like, how did you even, where did that come from? Like, do you know my life? Lately, I've been like, is this a Truman Show? Am I being watched? But it feels like that, because wild. Why would she even come to me? And this show is like from 2012. This show is not recent. This show is like old and it's on Netflix. And I'm like, what? So, anyway, say that to say, through this journey, I'm even having beautiful experiences that I can't explain. Just me, myself, and not even through the conduit of my son, just me. I'm having experiences. And it's been a beautiful journey. So, I will say, is there anything, before I ask you the last questions that I have to ask you, is there anything that I missed that you want to inject into this space?
This has just been such a journey because it's such an important thing. When Chad and I first started, having these experiences with non speakers specifically, I think it just became this enormous thing of what do we do with this? Like, this is so much importance in one thing, and how can we possibly be enough to take this enormous thing and do something meaningful with it? There are going to be a lot of people that don't believe it, think you're just making something out of nothing, or there's always going to be those people. And I think there was just so much that came to Chad specifically in this situation that I think it was just too much to ignore. It was too much to just brush away. And I think, yes, he will talk over and over again about the curse of it. But I think what I'm never stop reminding him of is the blessing that comes with it. The validation that parents can receive, the voice that you can give to somebody who doesn't otherwise have a voice. And like, just trying to, how do you move forward from here? I can't stop asking myself that question. I think it's been an amazing experience. It's changed everything that I do. It changes every way that I interact with every student that I have. And I think I've brought the other adults in my room into that space, and it's changed everything about my classroom. And I think made us better for it. And I hope that moving forward, it will continue to make us better for it. And I think we all just keep asking ourselves, how do we make it better from here? Because it has to be better.
Yeah, it has to be better.
It has to be better.
I got
Yeah, I see you want to say something.
I got 2 points. One of them was, you should have been there when my wife reflected. So after all this is going away, her new process of teaching, right, that she just talked about, she stopped and reflected to 14 years and all the kids that she wonders now, what was this? What was this? What was this kid? and like it really messed with her. Like it upset her really that first night. And two, my fear is that I'm going to hurt people. Meaning, what if tomorrow Raymond never talks to me again? And then every time you see me, it's just going to be that, oh, that's the guy that used to communicate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm scared that people get hurt. Oh, I can't hear you.
Said, I don't
Right.
know, because as soon as you were saying that, he walked into the room. I don't think that this breaks the bond of relationship that you have, because I mean, and it's wild that I'm saying breaks the bond of relationship that you have, because it's literally
a telepathic relationship.
Yeah, like we don't even live in the same city.
Yeah.
We live in the, and
It's
so
got to do with, with spirits that come and go.
yeah.
So that is my fear with this. Like,
because this is new.
will I always be connected to it? Will I always, since I can't control it, I have a fear of if I open up to you and I get your hopes up and then I never hear from him again, you're always going to be like, are you sure you didn't hear nothing? Is there, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to upset anybody.
Well, I can only tell you, Chad, that the gift that you've given me has empowered me to find my gifts.
Well, I don't come out like this because I don't look like the crazy guy. And it really does sound crazy, especially if we want to talk religion and I start telling people you don't go to heaven right when you die, people really get upset with me. So, it's just with you and her and are supposed to expand this. I think I am a small piece and you two are the big cogs in this clock that are going to make it turn. And you right now think I'm special in it, but I'm not. I think I'm the stepping stone for you two to go on to do great things. And I'm just the crazy guy that heard voices. And I really do think that. Like, that's not insulting to me. I really think I am just the push that you two need. That is why I shut the camera or turned the camera on and gave our real names, because like he was saying, you two can't do great things if nobody knows you're doing great things. So here we are.
Please don't discredit your part in this, because like every situation that turns into something amazing needs a catalyst, needs a jump off. And you are the jump off into and springboard. And I got the chills as I'm saying this, so I know I'm right. You're the springboard that moves this thing, of this big thing that we did know at one point. We knew. We can trace language back and know that we did speak telepathically, but it was a lost thing. And if you watched my episode before, I talked about Dane Calloway. He's one of my favorite researchers on YouTube. He researches down. That man is so researched, you cannot refute anything that he's saying. But he talks about how language turned into a control thing. And because we're so disconnected from our body, we have societal apraxia. Can we talk about it? We're robots. We go to work, we go here, we come home, we and then we do the same thing over and over again, not connected to our body, not connected to our feelings. When I was teaching for 14 years, I never stopped to feel my feelings. And then when I quit, I cried for 6 months, just spontaneous. I was find myself in spontaneous crying. I'm like, I don't even know what's wrong, but I know somatically I have put a whole bunch of emotion on me that I never gave myself permission to feel. And so, because I was like, no, I got to do the job. I don't know how far I'm going to go into this emotion that I feel, even if it's a big emotion. So, we all are experiencing a little bit of praxia, but that was a side note. But I'm saying that to say, like, now we're coming back to us, especially after COVID. People are like, I'm not doing that. They couldn't get people to work. You know what I'm saying? Because they had stopped and they felt what their bodies felt like when they stopped. And they're like, oh no, you can't pay me to disrupt my nervous system. And I feel that, because I even coming to the school in Southern one half afternoon for 2 classes in a recess, I came home and slept for 5 hours.
Yeah. It's like teachers when they go back to school in the fall, always. I tell him, I'll
Oh,
see
I'm
you
good.
in 2 weeks.
I know there's a period where I'm gonna have the house clean, dinner cooked, and she might even eat. She might just come home and go upstairs and lay down, and that's
Yes.
the first couple, at least the
Just
first couple days.
reacclimating yourself to that space. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening.
But with you, when you're talking about your spirituality and your guidance, and you've done that your whole life, though. Your whole life is you went into your master's for doctor, and everything is not for you. Everything in your life has been to please others. So this is the first, what do you say? Living my best life. So that's what you always tell me.
I'm living
So,
my best life. Yeah, I'm living my
so
best
this is you living the best life because you finally have put down between relationships and raising and where you grew up and why you became a music teacher, why you stayed, why you got your doctorate, so on and so forth, is pleasing everybody. So you're the cocoon breaking out, butterfly, you know.
I know, I really feel that. And today, one of the oracle cards I got was freedom. I really do feel like that. I really feel like I'm in a free space and I'm free in myself. And like you alluded to, Chad, I'm doing it for me first. If you benefit off of what I do for me, then that's wonderful.
Right.
And that's actually my intention, but it's happening for me first. And honestly, I know that my son is going to benefit off of me taking that vantage point. Because when you just give and deplete yourself, then you can't give anything to yourself. And the analogy I always use, and especially after I quit teaching, when you're on the plane and you're sitting right next to a child, they say you got to give yourself oxygen first before you can give that child oxygen. So that is really all of this has set me up to push myself up and to dive within myself and empower myself from the inside out. I have people all the time like, you don't even look the same. No, because I glow different.
Yeah,
My
Yep.
glow is from the inside.
Yep.
So
yeah.
it's just a different space. Okay, I do have one last question, and oh my gosh, this has been soul feeling, like soul, not soul feeling, soul feeling for me because we get to tell the world what we've been experiencing, and my close friends know, and then some friend are like sometimes I intuitively feel like okay, I can share it with this person. Like I did
Yes.
share it with
I
Clydette,
feel that.
Yeah, she
Yes.
does that.
I
huh?
feel that. There are just a couple people at work who I've shared this with.
Yeah,
So you
so
find your people that you yes.
yeah. And now, I mean, here we are sharing with the world.
Yep.
People are going to know, but people are interested to know. A bigger part of the reason why I was 110% okay with you being anonymous was that protection factor for you, for Chad, and for Raymond. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And his school community, stuff like that, because as we know, we got a world full of compassionate, kind, caring people who are like, let them have their business. And then we got the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yep. Yep.
Do you believe that your studies, everything you do, are frowned upon because of just the corrupt people that do it? Last week I found a palm reader and a tarot card reader here in town, and I was going to ask him, "Is all this real?" I want to know because I know the spirits are real because I've dealt with my whole life. But this Hill and the Raymond and the other girl I heard, and then the lady, all she wanted to know everything I wanted the reading to be about. And I was like, no, that's not a reading. I just want to tell you, I want to know if something's real. And I want you to read. I think she's just a fraud here in town, not a real spiritual person or a studier or a believer. Do you feel like that is, the women with the crystal ball have ruined it for a lot of people?
So there's some frauds out here for sure. But the real part of my story that we just talked about that I can impart on you is that when you think about it, does your belly tell you that it's real? Because that's where intuition lies.
Yeah.
It's that trusting yourself. So we've danced around this whole entire episode, but we haven't directly addressed it. And this line that we walk between faith and belief.
Mhm.
This is not a belief thing because this is happening.
Yes.
This is real for us. So this is not, oh, I believe this is happening. This is actually happening in real time. So
Yeah, well, it's like when I listened to the telepathy tapes originally, that was not a jump for me, because of my life experiences with Chad. It was listening to this and saying, "Oh, well, I hadn't thought about it from the non-speaker's perspective," but when they started talking about in episodes about spiritual experiences, they were describing our own experiences. So, yeah, I think that for people, though, who have never shared these experiences, it's a pretty unbelievable thing to believe.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I get that.
Well, and I empathize with that
Yeah.
because I mean, there's a lot of fear in things that we don't know. The
Yes.
word is ignorance, and
Hmm.
people think that that is a negative thing. And I used to be offended when somebody would call me ignorant, but I think that the connotation of the word has shifted. So, like, if somebody does call you ignorant, then people are like, "Oh, that's a like that hurts." But no, to be ignorant simply means you don't know.
Hmm.
And there's a fear. We all move forward in life with fear. Only two things exist: love and fear. So we all, if there's not love attached to it, then there's fear attached to it. And we just have to recognize that. We have to become aware of that. So once we move into the awareness of that and we say, well, why can't I accept this idea? Or why can't I accept what people are experiencing in real time as a truth? Maybe not the truth, but as a truth. And it's simply because if I accept their truth as a potential truth for me, then that I have to grow in that area. I have to maybe adopt a different thought process. I maybe have to learn some new information that I'm just not willing to learn right now. Or the information is in direct contradiction to the homeostatic space where I'm comfortable.
Yes, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because when we learn things, it's uncomfortable to do so.
Yes.
And that challenges my comfortability level. So I just would rather not think about that as the truth. you
Mhm.
know?
You two are the fascinating part of it because of what the telepathic tapes are and what they mean. And because even in the like there's stages of it. I think telepathy tapes is stage one. They're already talking about having a season two. I've not even listened to season one, but they're gonna have season two. Well, who says season three isn't Dr. Mal and Miss Heather?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I felt like it was a feeling inside me when I sent it to you, Heather. I felt that I needed to send it to you. I sent it to you and his speech therapist because of her role in him gaining speech. But if his speech is telepathy, then she would have to have done her work, her own work, to be able to shift her mindset. Because what I will say, the most beautiful email that I've ever received in my whole entire life came from you, Heather. And when you said that this has changed how you interact with children, and you were able to say how it changed how you interacted with children, I cried when I received that. I remember the moment that I got that email and I was just like, this is this is bigger than
Yes. This is what I felt since I started just delving into all of this. My teaching partner and I have said multiple times, we have conversations about this all the time. And she knows the extent of all of this. And we say to each other multiple times a week, this is life changing. Like, this changes everything. It changes everything that we do. It changes how we do it. It changes how you look at the way that you interact with anyone. And specifically for our students, it changes how you see them interacting with you. Um, it it just like there's no words to describe how much it changes everything.
And it shows with Raymond. I'm not going to name names because we're not allowed, but you two can laugh that Raymond doesn't like somebody because they talk at him like he's not intelligent. And he has told me that. And before I was telling her about it, and then she figured out who that person was. And you can say it off air because we know. I just flat out told, she couldn't believe I told you. I was like, yeah, he hates so and so. And she couldn't believe I told you, overstepping, oversharing, whatever. Like, I was like, no, Raymond hates her. Like, it's like he sees her walk by and gets angry thinking it's her time to come in. He doesn't like her at all.
And
But she doesn't treat him like he's really there.
But it hasn't only changed. That's the thing. It has not only changed us as adults, it's changed the non-speakers. Simply having that conversation in our classroom, in front of our students, and talking about the telepathy takes and talking about our belief in their competency and our belief that they truly are communicating, that we're just not hearing it. The whole conversation, that conversation in my classroom changed my classroom.
Raymond was big.
It did not just change the adults in the classroom, it changed the students in the classroom. Everyone's every demeanor, everything changed. I shared with you Raymond's change. He made a complete 180. A complete. I mean, that there's no other explanation for it.
Besides with one lady.
But but he's not the only one that it changed. Is
No.
he the only one that we're having this telepathic communication with? Yes. But with other students, they're interacting with us differently. There are times where we will be in our room and it's quiet. And we can look around and we can see students playing on their own and interacting, or maybe there's students interacting near each other. And we will out loud say, I think everybody's just talking to everyone in here right now. This is as quiet as it gets. I mean, there are those moments where we are looking at all of those moments differently. And those moments weren't happening before.
That is incredible. Wow, that just spawned another question though, because here we are. We're coming out, but the parents of the other children and their receptibility to this. Now, this might be crossing a border, a line. So if you don't feel comfortable in saying anything, then don't say anything at all. So I'm thinking out loud, like, if they had the same enlightenment, because that was really one of the things in the telepathy tapes where the mom said, once I assumed competency,
yes,
our whole life changed.
yes. And that's what I'm seeing in our classroom. And we've said, and now I would say, I don't think that it was ever a matter of us not presuming competency. It was us not speaking it.
We even did that. We have a family member that's nonverbal. And I went to him and was telling him, like, I'm ready if you want to communicate. I love you. Like, I got nothing.
There's an importance in speaking it.
Yeah, it's just saying, like, okay, I know you're more than just, I can talk at you like you understand me. And I could talk at you like you do know what's going on. And you're not this perceived notion that nonverbal kids are just off in their own little world, because that's what we were taught. We were taught that these kids were in their own little world and it's not our world. And then you find out that
it's their world and we're just living in it.
Yeah, their world is so much more. I mean, you can't even have a date night or living the best life without Raymond going, wonder what she's doing out there. Like, or
feeling me.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, now you feel.
They talk to the dead too. Their communication is with living and dead.
But that doesn't even surprise me.
What's the name of the book?
I don't remember.
Something Plain.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book we'll hit you up with. It's about the plane of human to afterlife, and it was her. Was it grandpa or grandma that
my grandfather
wanted us to read it? And I was like, this is when I'm finally being open. I'm like, all right. And her whole family went out and got the book. Their plane is the world. Like, whether past, present, future, I don't know. But it's way more than I can comprehend or really wrap my brain around. You know, how a kid can talk to me about his mom who's not even with him. And as soon as she knows that we were communicating, he's happy. Like, that is crazy. Like, we sound crazy. Like, we don't sound normal. Like,
But honestly, it's not, because it's our lived experience, and you know,
100%.
I'm here every day living that.
Yes.
So it's
Do
not.
you think certain parents will get hurt if their kid doesn't communicate or that their kid doesn't?
Are you
I
asking
think
me? Do I think?
I think if you're a parent and you have a nonverbal kid, this would be an amazing, like, hope for you. And if it didn't come true, you would just be crushed. I have that fear for people. Like, if I think you're going to
I think
communicate with
that's true
Raven,
with anything in life.
but
And I also think that, so Chad, we have talked about in private conversations and even alluded to this a little earlier about how your gift is underdeveloped.
yes,
But if you developed your gift a little more and be able to, because I will say that Akasha Grace talked about your ability and your growth, because she said, Spirit's telling me that he will gain the skill to have two-way conversation. Because right now it's one-way conversation, but Spirit's very adamant that you will gain the skill that you need to be able to have that two-way conversation. But it's a matter of whenever you're ready. It's a whole world out here, and there's a lot of people to support you. Okay, one more question, and this is about communication. So how and the one that we're talking about came in here. No, you got a whole daddy here. uh so how has this changed your thought process about communication?
with the nonverbal.
Sorry, let me be clear. I was distracted. I'm closing this door, boy. He's opening it. How has this changed your thought process about communication just generally?
I think that it's made us more intentional with our communication.
I think you're 100% right when you say what I think your quote was: English, Spanish were created for trade, and sign language and uh, telepathy were the first natural ways to communicate. I think you're right. I'd never thought about like that before, ever. I mean, telepathy to me has always been kind of like, that's an odd thing. Like, no, that ain't real. Even though I can see spirits and I have this whole other side of life, I never thought this aspect was real. So,
Which is funny to me.
Yeah.
How you could think one thing's not possible when
Yeah.
something you're doing is so unbelievable to other
Right.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just made us think much more intentionally about the way we communicate, both, and also made us more intentional with our thoughts. And I think communication wise specifically, I think it just makes you look at different aspects of communication in a deeper way, I guess. Like, obviously I work in a room full of non-speaking children. And so I'm used to nonverbal communication, right? Whether it's gestures or behaviors or whatever it is. But I think you start to look at those nonverbal ways of communicating differently. You see more intention to it, and you see it's more than just pointing, it's more than just pulling, it's an intentional pause in front of you, it's an intentional look that they give you. I think that you start to look at that. You're more intentional in observing the things around you as you communicate.
People don't understand how amazing these kids are. There's the kid from her past who I love. He's my favorite all time. And I'm friends with his mom. And he used to sit down and draw a picture of SpongeBob, right? And then you could actually hit play on that SpongeBob episode and just look at your picture, and you could pause. And you'll see the moment that he clicked in his brain and drew every single background, everything of this picture without ever pausing the show. Like, he literally, and he doesn't miss a beat or a single scribble or nothing. It is 100% like he paused the show at this point and traced it. But yet he hasn't watched that show in a month. He was the most fascinating to me before there's ever telepathy tapes. It was him drawing. And then I touched his drawing and he yelled at me. And non-verbally, he was so mad I touched his drawing.
I love it.
Now he hugs me and he can say my name. But the first time I met him, I was like, oh, because I'm an artist. I was like, oh, artist, that'd be our common ground. I touched his paper and he snapped and like grunted and like even tried to like hit at me. So
It actually, when you said that, because I've been talking about this myself and thinking back to, because I feel like a lot of who I am right now was suppressed when I was younger, and that I would have been considered twice exceptional.
He's hungry. Raymond's hungry. He's communicating right now on your show. That is why he's mad. Is he yelling?
Yeah, he's yelling.
Is Big Raymond there?
Yeah, he's here.
Try to communicate to Big Raymond. He's hungry.
I don't know where he's at. But yeah, I'll communicate. Wow. I didn't expect that we'd be talking that long for him to be.
This is what I get. I now keep my phone with me at school at all times. And if I don't have it with me and something's happening, I will ask somebody, could you bring me my phone, please?
And then she gets upset when I say nothing. Like, what's Raymond telling you? Nothing. I haven't heard it from him. She'll be like, oh, like when it answers, like I can make her day easier. That's where we just go back to say mom's okay.
Yeah, he's banging on the door now. Oh, that's
Ask him if he's hungry.
Come here. What do you want? Here. Come here. Oh, you want? Yeah. He's pointing at my food. You ready?
He want to eat.
I can't hear him.
He said I want to eat.
I'm deaf. Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said I want to eat.
Oh, I couldn't hear. I'm deaf. Like that's. I hear spirits,
He
but I
said
can't
I
hear.
want to eat bar, which I told them in the car.
Okay, he's hungry.
Okay, go get them. They're in the car. Go get
I'm
them.
gonna guess he gets hangry.
Yeah, go get it. Go get it. Mommy, open it. Go get it.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Okay.
There you have it.
Okay, there it is. Okay. Well, thank you for the insight. And that was what do I say?
We could get into stories about he was mad one day. I'll tell a quick story. And I was like, he's mad about this toy. And I was like, she's like, what? And I was like, he's mad about a toy because she wasn't even there. Her parents were texting her to text me to know what's wrong with Raymond. And then we figured out he was throwing this toy up in the air and it was hitting other kids, but he didn't care. He was having fun throwing the toy up. So they hid the toy and they couldn't figure out why he was mad.
Well, now he's back in my face. I told him to go get the bar, but the garage door the top lock is locked because I didn't want him to go outside because he knows how to open the garage door. So this is having to come to an end. But thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know, I mean, without you even telling me that this is going to to be a game changer and to move us collectively into something different. I know that this is going to be that. I know that this is going to be that. And I know that Raymond's going to Raymond's going to help us to, be different with people who are non-speaking. I even stopped saying nonverbal because he just said eat as he was going to eat. He said eat verbally, but yes, he just said eat. So he's communicating. We just have to move through our ignorance into a space of understanding how he communicates and how they communicate. So,
Yep.
thank you. Thank you so much.
We loved it. We love you.
We love. But listen, it like I
know.
say, family. I ain't even met you, Chad, in person, but you're my family for life. You are.
We're just gonna hug. You know that. You're gonna cry. I'm gonna laugh. She's gonna cry, and that's it.
Well, so beautiful. I can't wait till the day. I know, baby. I know. He said bar. he said it. He said it twice. Look. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Uh-oh. He said eat bar bar. He's not playing with me. Okay, I gotta go. Well, that's all for me this week. And let me tell you, I conducted the interview and I live in this every day, and I'm still trying to find a word in the world that actually fully captures what I'm feeling every day. Because I oftentimes will look around me and I'm saying, am I in the Truman Show? Those of you who know about that movie. Because I feel like somebody's watching me, because this cannot be real life. But it's all very positive. So it's not like it's wild and it's crazy and it's unbelievable. I mean, it's all those things, but there's a word. There's a word. Please, somebody tell me, send me the word for what I'm experiencing, because this is wild. I'm forever honored that you tune in, even when it's an episode that challenges your current state. And I'm thankful that you hold space with me and witness these deeply personal, divinely guided conversations. And a special thanks to my guests, both Heather and Chad, for their vulnerability, their truth, and their willingness to share something so sacred. And for real, I just like to call out their bravery, because we don't know what's going to happen when we put this out. We don't know what we don't know right now. So, in this moment, I'll leave you with this. In the same interview with Jay Shetty, I referenced earlier, Kai Dickens said something that struck my soul. She said, all truth goes through 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and finally, it's accepted as self evident. And that quote is originally from the philosopher, author Schopenhauer. And it's never rang more true, because I know that what I'm saying in this episode might challenge some people. I know that talking about telepathy, spirit communication, and choosing a living speaker to speak on your behalf might sound out there. But I also know that once you see it, once you feel it, once you witness it, once you experience it, it's like something that you can't unsee. And for those of us living in this truth every day, pick me, it's already self evident. I'm past the opposition, I'm past the ridicule, and I'm into the space of self evidence. So, yeah, there it is. Now, listen, next week, I honestly don't even know what I'm going to talk about, real talk, because this episode has been so spiritually charged and emotionally layered. And I've been sitting in silence with it, because I'm like, well, where do I go from here? And I think, with the proposal of Chad and I coming back and answering people's public questions about our experience and what we're going through, I think that might be the next episode, but I'm not entirely sure. And I even asked Spirit, like, what is the next episode going to be? And I'm getting crickets. So check back in with me next week and we'll all see how this unfolds. But for me, I just know that all of my content, all the way up until now, has not been just content for me. It's literally a divine assignment. I'm here to share my lived experience in all forms and all how I live it with others so that they may learn from my experience and I can be the beacon of light to help you through your experience. So I trust that whatever is going to come will come because que sera, sera. What will be, will be. So until then, love and peace to all of you. Have the best week. Thank you for tuning in for a Monday Moment with Dr. Mal, now proudly a part of the Alive Podcast Network. You can find this show on the Live Podcast Network website and app, and you can find this podcast streaming across your favorite podcast streaming platforms. If you love to have the visual, you can tune into my YouTube channel, When Mallory Lives, to see this show and catch up on all my shows from the beginning.